Breaking news into SportsCenter. Our Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Memphis has traded guard Mike Conley to the Utah Jazz for Grayson Allen, Kyle Korver, Jay Crowder, the 23rd pick in tomorrow's draft, and a future first-rounder. And we have Woj joining us now from New York. So we were kind of expecting Mike Conley to get dealt at some point before the draft. What's behind this deal for both teams, Woj?
Well, for Memphis, David, they're about to draft their point guard of the future, Ja Morant from Murray State. They moved Marc Gasol at the trade deadline last year, and they're ready to head into a rebuild. Mike Conley, with 2 years left on his deal and still in the prime of his career, was a target for several teams, but Utah has been focused in on him really since the trade deadline in February. They're going to lose Ricky Rubio in free agency. They wanted to upgrade at that position. And the idea of partnering Mike Conley with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, this Jazz team that needed another playmaker, another player who could take some offensive pressure off of Donovan Mitchell, and really one of the great professionals in the league. This is for Utah and their opportunity to move up in the West. He's a perfect fit for them.
All right, the NBA is looking more wide open than ever going into next season with all of the injuries and what we've seen lately. So the Jazz trying to make a step to contend there in the West. Let's go to the Lakers, where everyone's sort of installed them as the favorites now. All right, so they have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis, they have Kyle Kuzma, and now they don't have a lot of cap space, as we said, $23 million or so. What can they do to increase that cap space and go out and get another piece or two or three, Woj?
Well, David, they're trying to expand that Anthony Davis trade. They have until July 6th to complete it. So Bonga, Mo Wagner, those players and their contracts, they're trying to find teams who will take them on. They may have to incentivize those deals and create more space for the beginning of July free agency. And, you know, they could potentially get north of $30 million if Anthony Davis would waive his trade bonus of $4 million. And, you know, that would allow them to go use that money to get multiple pieces. They don't have depth. They don't even have a starting five right now. And they probably aren't going to be in contention for a max level free agent, an A-list guy that is worth investing all that money in. I think for the Lakers, they've got to spread that money around, get some shooting, some role players around what's obviously a dynamic partnership in LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Hey, Woj, any names jump out at you of role players that they could fit two or three under that $32 million number?
Well, there's lots of them, but here's the thing. I mean, this is free agency. You've got to have a player decide they want to play for you. You've got to be able to make an offer that is competitive in the marketplace. And when you look out there and you see some of the shooting out there, you know, the Danny Greens, you know, Seth Curry, T.J. McConnell as a point guard. These are the players available in free agency. And if you're going to start breaking that money up, that doesn't leave a lot to get elite level players or good players. And, a player like J.J. Redick, I think every team with cap space would love to have. Philly would like to keep him. He's going to be expensive. He might cost $16, $17 million a season. Got
to fill out 14 roster spots. We'll see how the Lakers do it. Woj giving us the latest there. And again, the breaking news that Mike Conley has been traded to Utah. Still to come, the beginning of the phenomenon. Jay Billis reveals how Zion started on the path to become one of the most exciting pro prospects in years.
Begins now. Welcome to day 2 of the NBA Draft Combine, powered by Under Armour. We've got our 3 courts going here at the Quest Multi-Sport Complex, and that just means that we've got plenty of NBA hopefuls here in attendance, just hoping to grab a little bit of the attention of some of the NBA League representatives that we have on hand. Here's what they're all taking in. Our NBA Draft Combine menu includes shooting drills and also Vertimax and throw testing, and a way for all of these players to prove their athleticism, as well as 5-on-5 scrimmages, which culminates in all of the skills that these players have been trying to show throughout their career, hoping to shine on days like today and draw in a little bit of extra attention. We thank you for your attention here on day 2 of the NBA Draft Combine. We've got 4 hours of coverage coming your way. Maria Taylor alongside our college basketball analyst, Jay Billis. We've got our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. We also have Bobby Marks. He's our front office insider. And somewhere roaming around this gym is Mike Schmitz. He's our draft analyst, and he will keep us in tune with what's going on as well. But Woj, let's start with you, because there's just so much information, I bet, teeming throughout these stands and in this gym, and what you're hearing on the league side of things.
Well, one league executive who's not in the gym today is Tim Conley, the president of basketball operations in Denver. He's meeting with Washington's owner, Ted Leonsis, about Washington's vacant president's job. The Nuggets gave permission here in the last 48 hours to Washington to speak to Tim Conley, who's from the Mid-Atlantic region. He and his wife both have lots of family there. Tim Conley started his career with the Wizards, but he's also got an extraordinary young team in Denver that's built to be very good for years to come. They were the 2 seed in the West, got to the conference semifinals, and my sense is that Tim Conley's going to have a decision to make here in the next 24 hours about whether he wants to take what may be a very lucrative offer from the Wizards to run their operation.
Well, trust me, if you guys want to hear all the updates on what's going to happen with moving and shaking without the league, stay with us, because Woj is going to be here the entire time, and he'll have all the updates. Let's do a retake of what we saw in day 1 of the Combine, and who kind of stood out to you, Billis?
Well, there are a bunch of players that stood out, and I'll tell you that the Combine is about, if you had a rough day yesterday, can you bounce back? And if you had a good day, can you follow it up? And one of the guys that I thought had a good day was Isaiah Roby of Nebraska. He's 6'7", but his arms, the length of his arms, makes him over a 7-footer. And he's an intriguing prospect because he's so good defensively. He can guard multiple positions. He can really move his feet. He's an excellent shot blocker and rebounder, and he had over 50 steals, 50 blocks for 2 years in a row at Nebraska. Tested out pretty well. He averaged about 12 points a game. He's not a great offensive player, but he shoots a good ball. And I think he's a guy who could move up in the draft because of his versatility on the defensive end.
And for me, it's Miyai One from Yale. Shot 3 or 5 from the field yesterday, and now it's coming off a 2 for 16 game in LSU in the first round. And that's what teams are going to be able to look for. Can he shoot the ball from deep? 2 of 3 from yesterday. Probably one of the great stories of this draft. Parents immigrated from Nigeria when they were 20 years old, was 5'9" in 8th grade, grew to 6'4" his senior year, did not get recruited by any schools except for Williams College in Mass, went to Suffield Prep, and eventually landed at Yale. And I think he's got a chance. He's got to have a good day today, though.
Yeah, the Ivy League Player of the Year. He's looking to become the first Ivy League player drafted since 1995. And like you said, it's a great story that we're going to keep our eye on. Mike Schmidt's keeping his eye on everything. Let's get it over to our draft analyst and what you've seen in day 1 and who you expect to improve maybe in day 2.
Yeah, Croatian forward Luka Samanic helped himself more than any other prospect here yesterday, so much so that he decided not to play today. He's getting serious interest in the first round. 6'11", can guard multiple positions, was out here switching ball screens yesterday against quick point guards like Jordan Bone, banging on the interior, and then offensively he stepped out and knocked down a 3. He was pushing off the glass. He can handle it. He can score in the post. He's gotten a lot tougher since we first evaluated him in Europe, and he's certainly helped himself in a huge way. So Luka Samanic, look for him to get some serious looks in the first round come June. And then some guys who could use some improvement today, I think, starts with Jared Harper of Auburn. He was outstanding at the G League Elite Camp, but wasn't able to follow up on that yesterday. 0 for 5 from the field. Looked a little bit small out there offensively and defensively. So look for him to have a bounce-back day. And then Jalen McDaniels out of San Diego State. He was once touted as a first-round pick, and he was almost invisible yesterday. He weighed in at 194 pounds. So look for him to be a little bit more aggressive and kind of solidify his standing as a top 40 prospect in this draft.
All right, appreciate it, Mike. And McDaniels, second team All-Mountain West. He also has a brother, Jaden's the number 6 recruit right now in the ESPN 100. He's very athletic, very skilled. But again, part of this process, too, that I don't think we talk about enough, Billis, is getting some information, getting some feedback from NBA teams, and kind of almost understanding where you stand and where your game needs to go. That's something else that is being covered right now.
Yeah, it's one of really two paths you have. You can be a college player that goes through the process to get the feedback, and then you go back and continue to work on your game, or you've committed to this already. And Mike was, as usual, right on with all of his analysis. I'd add one player to it too. I mean, we can't go on forever whatever. But Grant Williams yesterday, he's a really good player, and he's been talked about as a first rounder, and I think he can be that. But yesterday, I thought that he tried to prove that he could shoot the ball and play on the perimeter instead of doing what he does that makes him really good. And I'll be interested to see if he modifies the way he goes at it today. And plays more around the bucket and shows a little bit, because part of being versatile is doing more than one thing. And if you're trying to show you're versatile by just hanging around on the perimeter, that's not versatility.
Remember, Williams, the kid out of Tennessee, two-time SEC Player of the Year, and obviously coming off of a great year with Tennessee. But another reason why we're here is to find out exactly what's going to happen in the draft. We don't know much about who's going to be chosen, but we can tell you this. This is going to be how the lottery is actually going to shake out. Remember, the Pelicans, they had a 6% chance of getting the #1 overall pick, and just like that, they walk away with it. They've got a little bit of new management. David Griffin is now taken over in New Orleans, and although some things have changed, it seems like things are looking up right now for New Orleans and the entire organization.
Yeah, they built some momentum since David Griffin's hiring. Not the least of which winning the draft lottery the other night and having that #1 pick. But just in terms of, you've seen a commitment from ownership there to spend some money to beef up their staff, hire top people, do some renovations of their facility. And David Griffin has been tried to be really proactive and even aggressive in trying to make a case to Anthony Davis to reconsider his decision to ask for a trade. Remember, he's under contract through next season. They don't have to trade him here at the draft or by July 1. But with teams like New York and LA having picks in the top 5, and those being teams that ultimately, if you are going to trade him, he probably goes to, you would think David Griffin's got to make a decision by draft time, because if those picks end up in a deal, well, David Griffin's going to want to have some say in who's selected there.
Yeah, but there's Alvin Gentry. Remember, we had him up here on the set yesterday. We talked through the fact that they've sold 2,000 more season tickets just because people are excited about the lottery and what's happening there. Bobby, walk us through what the front office is thinking through, some of the priorities and the things that they're having to process right now that they have the #1 pick.
Well, the one thing that we forget about is that Davis is still Supermax eligible. So that $235 million contract is going to be there July 1st if he's not moved by then. But the big question for is, how can you find a point guard? They've used Elfrid Payton last year, Rajon Rondo the previous year, and put Drew Holiday at the 2 guard. Can they bring Payton back, or maybe a free agent? The other question will be what happens with Julius Randle. He's got a player option, will likely opt out of that number, and then Williamson kind of slides into that slot. But the big question is we talked about with Alvin Gentry about it. Is Anthony Davis a free agent? Do you have to recruit him to stay? And they're going to have Zion Williamson, the potentially could have $20 million in cap space to go out and continue building this roster.
Well, you see the smiles from Alvin Gentry. You see David Griffin's here too still. I don't see the angel, the good luck charm from Connie, but they've got a lot of good luck right now on their side. And again, that #1 pick.
I didn't see a lot of smiles the last few months from Alvin Gentry.
You did it? Isn't that nice?
I haven't seen him stop smiling since the lottery on Tuesday night.
Very energetic and a fun interview that we had with him yesterday on our Combine coverage. And you keep hearing all of those horns, because that means that our 5-on-5 scrimmages are just about to tip off. And remember, you can watch the entire scrimmage on ESPN3. It will be streaming live on the ESPN app. So if there's anything that you want to be focused on or players you're trying to keep track of, you can watch the entire thing online. And we want to watch the entire game too. Are we allowed to swivel around and actually just look and see the game this time? Billis, you complained a lot last time about not being able to see, so let's do it that way.
I don't like turning my back on the court.